Hi, it's Janos, and now let's talk about mono and stereo cartridges. And so eventually, if you choose a mono cartridge to play back mono recordings, will it be always better than using a stereo cartridge or not? And I can say that if you are at lower levels, lower to mid level of cartridges, then a good mono cartridge will be noticeably quite a bit better both in quality and enjoyment than a stereo cartridge. And one thing that you will notice is tremendously lower noise floor and lower noise level. And most of the pops, clicks, nothing like this or hiss, whatnot, it's not happening with the mono cartridge, while there's a lot of that happening with stereo cartridge when you are playing mono records. And however, when you go for a very high level stereo cartridge, then the situation drastically changes because very high level stereo cartridges don't pick up any noise basically whatsoever, and then the noise, extra noise rejection of the mono does not really bring much to the table because it doesn't pick up any noise at all. So uh, that's what I've been noticing, that for example with my Benz MC3, it's dead silent, and so I would say not maybe like low noise floor, or I can hear extremely low detail level. I would say even lower detail level than with my mono cartridge, the Audio Technica 8033 mono, the anniversary edition, which is a higher grade version of that cartridge. And those who don't know these cartridges, this Audio Technica cartridge, that's also, as I later learned, the recommendation of Lyra's engineer, the person who designs the cartridges of Lyra. And those who don't know, it's one of the top high-end cartridges. So Lyra is like really really high standard, and they are the ones who make probably one of the highest level mono cartridges that are being made today. And his recommendation is that if you can't afford that Lyra mono, then go for this Audio Technica because that's the closest thing to it. And personally, I don't have any personal comparison between the Lyra mono and the Audio Technica, but I can tell that the Audio Technica mono cartridge is truly phenomenal. But it does not give like an inherent advantage against the Benz MC3, uh, so which is a stereo cartridge. And both of these are low output moving coil cartridges. So when we think about like getting most of the detail level out, most of the low level detail level, then uh, moving magnet and high output cartridge versus low output, the lower your output, regardless of what the interior are, moving magnet, moving coil, moving iron, whatever, strain gauge. mm, the thing is that the lower the output level, the lower number of turns the coil has in your cartridge, the least lower the inductance, lower the signal out. But also because it's lower, it's a more direct path, and it can pick up finer levels of nuances much better at low level details because it has fewer turns, and fewer turns means lower inductance, so it means that lower smearing coming from that inductance of those coils in the cartridge, lower resistance in the coils of the virus. So there's like the highest end cartridges they have as few as 5 turns or even less than 5 turns for that coil that picks up the signal from the cartridge. So when you have like a 1 to 100 step up ratio moving coils, that's super low output. Then you just have a few turns of the coils there. So basically, when you have a cartridge, a stereo cartridge of that level, then you don't need to go for a mono because you won't have a more refined experience with the mono cartridge. However, the mono cartridge still might be a good choice because when you look at mono records, they are not equal. They are all sort or different, especially if you have like 78 records, 78 RPMs. They require an elliptical stylus, and it's a bigger one, the 1 mil size, which is a fatter compared to 0.7 mil that's used for the more modern records. And also for mono, the elliptical geometry of the cartridge tip is recommended, and most of the high-end cartridges, I would say pretty much all of them, have the microline geometry, which is a much sharper thing. Elliptical is nice and rounded, and there's like all kinds that from the elliptical, like Shibata and line, microline. All of these are different levels of how sharp the tip is, and these, especially the older monos, they used to have fatter grooves, and then the bigger elliptical stylus can fit in those grooves better than that really tiny stylus. And then if it's there, that's what some people report, that it's going to have like a screechy mm, sound to it if you try to read it with a too pointy stylus. Uh, in my case, the Audio Technica mono cartridge is it's elliptical. It's 0.7 mil elliptical, and anything I put in it on it, I don't have 78 RPM playback capability yet, so I cannot speak of any 78s. Only 33 and 45s, but from all sorts of eras going back in time. But everything I put on it and played it with that cartridge, it plays it beautifully, and the bands plays it just as well. And the my other Audio Technica stereo cartridge, it also plays it beautifully. So apparently, I have not experienced any kind of screechiness with that line contact stylus, and I think it's something that might be peculiar to certain cartridges, certain systems. How your arm, what is the compliance, how well the arm matches the stylus, how good is your table, because if it has problems, then that microline stylus might be resonating and on the fritz. However, if it's like a nice match between cartridge and arm, even that microline in a fatter groove will just give you the signal and not do extra dancing. And that's what I noticed, that these microline geometries can read out crazy detail level from these old mono recordings that I never ever suspected it's there. So I would recommend that if someone has a very high level stereo cartridge, play mono with them on a setup table if you have a good system. And if you notice that there's some high frequency imbalance, that's also, I think in my opinion, it's a feedback that probably your arm and your cartridge, they don't match each other really well, and the problem is there most likely, and not likely between the record and stylus interface. But my experience is based on Audio Technica, Grado, Shure, Benz Micro cartridges. I cannot tell anything about the other models because I have not played around with them in this mono stereo setting. So thank you for tuning in. I hope this information was useful for those of you who are playing around with mono, and please like and subscribe. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.